From the Wrap, MSNBC alters sickening Laken Riley killer headline after outrage online. The outlet's original headline said her killer never stood a chance before Jose Ibarra was convicted Thursday.
Unreal.
So here's the headline. It says, Laken Riley's killer never stood a chance. For all the political controversy surrounding Jose Ibarra, the outcome of this trial was never in doubt. Now, let me pause right quick. I'm seeing everybody on the right say, how dare they make this headline? I get it because it's MSNBC. It's being read as Laken Riley's killer never stood a chance. Whereas I read it as he never stood a chance.
Yeah.
I don't see how it was.
I read it the same way you did.
Yeah. It says the outcome of the trial was never in doubt. The assumption many people are making is that MSNBC was saying it was unfair.
It was unfair and he didn't.
But the article actually was saying this dude is guilty and we all know it.
Well, and they did update the headline, right, to say that his guilt was never in doubt.
Right.
I mean, this just speaks to the fact that they don't understand how they're perceived now, right? Like maybe you get away with that headline if you're a more reputable outlet, but if you're not, nobody's giving you the benefit of the doubt.
If I tweeted Laken Riley's killer does not stand a chance in this trial, people would be like, he's going down. We know he's guilty.
Same words. If you had said he never stood a chance afterwards, it would still be taken the same way if you said that.
But MSNBC, as you stated, is perceived a certain way. So everyone's looking at it like they're lamenting the fact that he's getting an unfair trial.
I mean, that shouldn't be. I mean, look, I didn't listen to the audio tape, but I read about it, and it's gut wrenching just to hear. Right? Like,
did you hear or did you see where Laken Riley's stepdad read the letter the journal that she wrote to her future husband?
No.
You didn't see this?
No.
Everybody,
cry.
I didn't cry because I'm not a bitch, but I was emotional about it because when he was saying, she wrote in her journal and like she starts it with like, I know this is weird that I'm doing this, but my pastor, said that this would be good and therapeutic. I forget exactly the word she used. And the fact that like she was this good of a person that she's doing a diary talking about her future husband, and a guy in the Tren de Arruga Venezuelan gang tried to rape her and did murder her. I mean, he deserves a death penalty, and I don't even like the death penalty. He deserves worse than the death penalty.
I have a brain full of terrible things. Like it's so disgusting, and I know, and even if this wasn't the point, right? This wasn't the action. It wasn't to say, oh, the poor guy never stood a chance. Even if that wasn't what MSNBC was thinking it was, it should have been pretty. It should have. I mean, they got to have a copy editor.
Yeah, a better copy editor to
say,
like,
hey,
maybe give this one another run through.
Yeah, and the idea that because there are people that still sympathize with him. There are absolutely people out there that sympathize with.
Asylum seeker.
How could you sympathize with that guy? I mean, I'm sure you're not wrong. There's somebody out there that's crazy, but how could you sympathize with an illegal immigrant that murdered a young woman on a college campus?
Because they don't. First of all, they don't believe that illegal immigrants are wrong. They also probably wouldn't believe that he's actually a gang member. They'd say if he is, it's because he doesn't have any other options. It's because he doesn't have anything else he has no other options, so he had to, and that's how he had to for protection, to protect himself, because if he doesn't, other gangs or whatever, they will make excuses forever.
The criminals are always the victims in the leftist mindset.
It was like the girl who got
and it is disgusting.
The girl who got her boyfriend got murdered in the mugging, and then she like befriended the guy who.
The guy that got stabbed. I was just talking about that with my girlfriend yesterday.
That stuff is pathological in America right now. That's born out of an extreme amount of leftist guilt that they have for being born in a wealthy country. And they will make excuses until the end of time for these types of things because they want to be thought of as more worldly and intelligent, and somehow to them that feels more layered when really what it is just insane.
Well, toxic empathy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to say this because Dr. Umar says this. I think Dr. Umar is great, even though I don't agree with him on everything. But the reason why also leftists bring in a lot of illegal immigrants is that inherently or genetically, or I can't even think of the right word, is white people do feel guilty about slavery, so they're nicer to black people. But they didn't enslave Mexican people, so that's why they like using Mexican people, because they don't have that same white guilt. So that's why the border is supposedly being flooded. I didn't say this, Dr. Umar said this, but that kind of makes sense that there is a guilt that you don't associate with Mexicans, so you can work them harder. You don't care. You you can almost use them like cattle.
Well, look at all the celebrities. Look at all the celebrities who are still saying like, who's going to work in the fields if they're not here?
That's what
Like
they
say
You
that,
are going to be our
and they
indentured
don't.
servants now.
They don't understand. Like you want, and you don't even realize. This is crazy. You don't realize that what you want is a permanent slave class, and you believe that you want that out of a sense of empathy, and nowhere along the path of that thought process does it occur to them that they're advocating for essentially the same thing that they criticize America's founding on.
And these people are the same people that will share memes that talk about, oh, look, the Democrats go to college and they're the smart ones. They're the exact same people. They have no self-awareness at all. But they're the ones that are always condescending to people that they disagree with. They think that they're superior to other people. And that's part of why they think, oh, these people should be doing these jobs because they believe that they are better than them.
It's so ironic, too, that these are often the same people on the progressive left who are anti-corporate, who talk about economic populism, but they somehow have this massive cognitive dissonance where they completely ignore the fact that their immigration policy enriches and benefits corporations more than anybody else.
Yeah. It does do that. And there is an amount of guilt or responsibility that the right holds because they have been like, the Rotary clubs and stuff like that are like, oh no, we got to keep the borders open and blah blah blah. And it's funny because it was like Bernie Sanders, who's as far left as you get in Congress or in the Senate, and he was saying that open borders is a Koch brothers scheme, who is about as
like 10 years ago,
and
15 years ago, not that long ago.
And to be honest with you, like I don't know for sure if it's a Koch brothers scheme or not, but it
probably is.
They definitely support it.
It is something that big business has supported because they can get cheap labor.
What they would do is they'd advertise in Mexico, come work in the United States, we have jobs for you. They'd bring people up, have them work in these factories, and then just before payday, they would call ICE and have them all deported and spend no money.
Oh,
that's genius.
The New York Times also, they ran
very evil.
They ran an investigation earlier this year, and I was actually surprised they did it. It was a full 2-page spread in their Sunday edition, but about the migrant children who were working illegally as well for a lot of these big companies. I think Kellogg's was one of them, working in the factories for, pennies, basically not only the indentured servants, but also violating child labor laws. It was like something like hundreds of thousands of migrant children just working in factories in the U.S.
I want to clarify too. I wasn't saying Koch brothers were doing that, because I don't know if I said there are companies that did it. I want to make sure I wasn't saying, I don't know that the Koch brothers specifically were doing anything like that, but there was a documentary, I think it was like 20 years ago, talking about how various companies that work in the South knew they could bring in illegal immigrants to work illegally. And then instead of paying them, they just have ICE come and take them away.
That's just evil.
Yeah.
Just evil.
And remember, they will also tie it back to racism when it's a straw man argument, not understanding that anybody on the right who cares about immigration will say, look, I don't care the color of the skin of the person who's coming in illegally. Yep. I don't want them coming in illegally at all from anywhere. Yep. And again, they tied this all back to identity politics, into the progressive stack. Whoever is what they perceive as the most oppressed is the most likely for them to be given a pass for bad behavior.
Yeah, Americans don't realize that as much as we have a lot of people that think that we're a right-leaning country and stuff, we're actually steeped in a lot of Marxism. Like that's just that people don't realize, because the names or the words that are used have been changed from the words that Marx himself used, but the concepts are very similar.
All of those things that we just talked about here are all shown in television shows pushed through Hollywood. Yep. So the idea that anyone from another country comes in and would commit a crime would never be shown at all. They would be shown as being taken advantage of by a white business owner and all of these things. And so they're never actually shown examples in popular culture of what the risks are of when it goes wrong. What happens to someone like Laken Riley? Because no story editor is going to touch that. No one's going to write that script. It's never going to happen. So unless they actually venture outside the bubble they live in, which is Hollywood media, mainstream media, they're never going to know these things happen. So it's kind of a losing argument because depending on where you get your news and your information, you are living in a completely different reality than someone who is extremely political and consumes information elsewhere.
And bringing this back to the border bill for a second, because there was another tragic case that happened over the past year with Jocelyn Nungare, who was, I believe, a 13-year-old in Texas. She was raped and murdered by 2 illegal immigrants. And the mechanics of the border bill are that they are providing more resources at the border, but not to secure it, but to process illegals at a faster rate. And both of those individuals who committed that crime against Jocelyn Nungare were processed at the southern border. They had been stopped by Border Patrol and then were allowed to go into the country. One of them had like an ankle monitor on. The other one just had a court date, and they committed this crime. So the problem is obviously not the processing speed. It's the fact that you don't turn them away.
Yeah, no, I interviewed Alexis Nungare, Jocelyn's mom, and that's just such a sad story that, she went out of her house, I think she was 13, I believe, and she like kind of snuck out of her house, and 2 Venezuelan gang members brutally raped her and murdered her, and she was found with no pants on. And that's all because of illegal immigration. I mean, I hate to just point all of it, to blame it all on illegal immigration, but you really can, because if they weren't here, she would still be alive.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.